Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Project GEEKCast. See, I told you that these aren't going to be only every year. I'm here with my good friend Chris Glansman. Say hello to the people, Chris.
Hello.
And I'm Josh Jones. And today we're going to be talking about Fortnite and how it's permeated mainstream culture, and especially in relation to the Travis Scott concert that happened recently. So, Chris, could you start us off with a little bit of a conversation about, just how big Fortnite is in general?
Yeah, so Fortnite kind of started out, as a lot of people know, as just like a single storm survival mode. So, for a while, they did an event, Fortnitemares, I think, where they had zombies. That's the entire base game. You just fight zombies and you build and you get weapons to fight and survive. But then they released their free-to-play battle royale, which everywhere. It's gone from
It's huge.
Drake played it and Marshmello played it, and a bunch of other singers and actors, and everybody's played it. It's everywhere. Uh, and over the years, they've just broken more and more like concurrent player records, not only for themselves, but as far as I'm aware, for gaming in general, especially with some of their bigger events.
Definitely. And some of the biggest events, at least the ones that have gotten that's made me interested in playing the game. I haven't played it since the first season, but the Star Wars event and the Avengers event have just been like very interesting. And like those are like the biggest movie franchises in the world right now. And the fact that, they partnered with Fortnite is huge.
Yeah, because it just shows how much of a pull on the target audiences Fortnite has. It's it ga If you are advertising your movie on Fortnite, it means Fortnite is a big way that you can advertise. It's hitting a lot of players.
Definitely. And it was in Avengers Endgame for a hot second.
Mhm.
And even there was I wouldn't say it was that big of a plot point, but um Fortnite revealed the Palpatine lines from Rise of Skywalker. That's where you saw his radio transmission. That's
Hmm.
where it was released, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah, certainly. And even not counting those longer running events, things like the season ending events, like the cube exploding one season, I think,
Hmm.
got 8.3 million players concurrently. When when the first chapter ended and they went into the black hole, there's 7 million concurrent players. The biggest two events, I believe, are the Marshmallow concert, which had 10.7 million concurrent players for
Hmm.
one view, um, and then the Travis Scott concert, obviously, which had 27.7 million players concurrently in just the first one. Oh no, that's true.
That's
Twelve point
total.
three, 12.3 million in the first.
Hmm.
27.7 unique players, 27.7 million unique players,
Hmm.
and then 45.8 million people experiencing it. So people watched it multiple times.
Wow.
Like that's the kind of event this was. It's just
And,
it's such a big thing. It's
mhm,
become such a big thing.
And I think it's really important to mention that the 12.3 concurrent players is the highest ever like concurrent players on an online game
Hmm.
in general, like not just Fortnite, for like any game ever, like being League, being Overwatch, being what's the CS:GO, like anything to name
Yeah.
it, that could beat it. And I think
Hmm.
that it really like a lot of my friends think that Fortnite is dead and Fortnite, like no one plays Fortnite anymore, but obviously it has an audience of dedicated players.
Hmm.
Maybe they're all 12-year-olds, but I'm sure that it's not. I'm sure there's a good amount of like people in their 30s who play Fortnite every night when they come home.
Yeah. I haven't played the game in a long time. I played it before I left for college, and then basically not since then. I picked it up just to watch the event to check it out because I had heard really good things about it,
Hmm.
and definitely enjoyed watching it. It was really well done in the engine. I thought, and it turned out way better than I thought it would. Because I hadn't seen any gameplay of it. Um, but I think that it just kind of is an interesting thing to happen. You know.
So what did you think about you said that you liked it, but like what specifically drew you to the Travis Scott event? Like why'd you like it?
So for starters, I'm not generally a big Travis Scott fan. I don't listen to a lot of rap.
I like
Uh,
Goosebumps. That's it.
I do. Goosebumps is good. Uh, so I just figured, okay, this could be a cool event. I've seen that this is happening, and the last one's here. I'm making dinner. I'll watch it while I'm making food. Uh, so I did that, but then I got distracted from making food by watching the event because the music is good. It's definitely not bad. And then the big thing is the visual effects. They
Definitely.
had me the entire time. Initially it started out kind of slow. It's just Big Travis. Uh, but it's like neat because it has Astro World just flying around,
Yeah.
and you like get close and it's bouncing in one part. But then the transition into the song that I now know is called Stargazing. Um, because just the very end section. That's fine. The whole sky changes. The entire map is on fire. Travis changes. The player model changes. The song changes, and then transitions into Goosebumps, which is for no reason one of my favorite transitions ever. Just I'm a loser. It's fine. But then it's all rainbows everywhere as it goes, which sounds kind of silly, but it actually comes out really well. There's the transition where he falls into the lake, and then you're all underwater swimming up, and then there's the tilt. Then you land after that on land, and then it tilts. The ground tilts, and you slide, and it does that, and then it all flips, and you are flying, and then you go into space, and there's the new song, and then Astroworld breaks. It's just the visual effects. Just that was a very long explanation to say. The visual effects and the music and everything came out. I just thought really well.
It's a very trippy show. It is very interesting. It's something unique, really, to video games. It's something that it's an experience that you probably couldn't never get or replicate anywhere else. Like you can make the craziest music video you want to, but you can't be like but like you can't be there
Hmm.
really. Like you can't like get up and like look up and be like, yo, Travis Scott is like huge right now because you're it's that interactive element that I think makes it different.
Hmm. And even with that, a lot of things like this, it's they didn't they didn't call it a concert. They called it an event.
Hmm.
But to think about stuff like if you were to go to a Travis Scott concert, it would be him on stage with a microphone, just bouncing around, having a good time. Uh, and you'd have like probably something cool on the background, on the screen in the background if there was one,
Yeah.
and maybe there'd be like a cool surprise person who come out. Depends on the concert, you never know. But with stuff like this, I think it's very interesting as a note for the future potentially, for at least for advertising for these kinds of things. Like the event was basically based around advertising his new song that came out at midnight the night of, or it came out at midnight the night after the event. That midnight
That midnight, yeah, I got you.
is when his new song dropped. Um, and I feel like if you're going to have a concert, this is a visually attractive and cheap, relatively, or easier than it's a big way to draw attention to it, I guess.
Definitely.
Like because like we were saying, it's so Fortnite is so much in the culture. It's just something that, oh, I've heard of Travis Scott and I play Fortnite, or I've heard of Fortnite and I like Travis Scott. I'll just download the free game and go just see
Hmm.
what's up with this.
Do you think
It's
you'd
just
ever
telling.
do you think you'd ever pay money for an event like this?
I don't know that
What if it's like your favorite artist? Like I don't know, like you like Coldplay or something?
I don't know how I feel about you assuming that Coldplay is my favorite artist. I like Coldplay, but that's besides the point. Something like this, I don't know. That's a very good question because I feel like stuff like this, it is expensive to make. It
Hmm.
requires lots of man hours to do. It requires uh, Travis, I don't know if Travis probably paid a lot of money for it, if I were to guess. He probably paid to have this event happen.
Probably.
Um, so if it wasn't like a Fortnite event, if it was another, maybe the big thing would be like VR events, something like this in VR,
Mhm.
where you pay for a ticket cheaper than a regular concert ticket for a big event like this that has lots of visual effects that if it's designed well and runs well on the engine, it could be like this but 10 times better. It could be, to pardon the pun, astronomical.
Oh, it'd be out of this world. Really. Yeah, yeah. So like if it was like a 30-minute long experience, like do you think that you'd be up to like, putting your little goggles on and like exploring the world and see what goes on?
Yeah, if I had VR and it was like a something that I was really interested in and it was like a cheap concert ticket, like I would be very much into that. Probably. It depends entirely on like the length, uh, what it's gonna be.
Hmm.
Because if it's anything like this, or even like crazier than this, I'd be willing to pay. I'd be
Hmm.
willing to pay at least some money for it
Hmm.
potentially.
I think what I would want is for it to be more interactive. Like
Hmm.
maybe like have the audience in some way like change the show. Like maybe like if we all do something, then this other event happens, or I'm not exactly sure like what you can do without ruining the experience for everyone else who's playing or everyone else who's viewing it. But like I'm in love with Beat Saber. Like I can put on my Oculus Rift and I can play Beat Saber like forever and like forget that time is happening. But like maybe like if I'm at a Taylor Swift concert, my favorite artist, maybe she puts me on stage and I play like Beat Saber to You Belong With Me, and then like if I win and if I get a good score or whatever, then like maybe like some special event will occur.
Hmm.
I don't know.
So I feel like that would be more. The thing with that would be it would probably be if they ran it in individual channels.
Hmm.
Everyone is in on their own because they would. I don't think people would want to do a big impact of an individual. An
Hmm.
individual is selected to do an event that could trigger an event. They
Hmm.
want to make it available to everyone so that people
Hmm.
aren't missing out on the experience. So while that would be
Definitely.
interesting, I do agree that it would be good to have something interactive potentially uh, and that would be an interesting idea. I don't know how well that
But you,
specific thing would function. I
yeah,
do go
no,
with your
definitely. Yeah, it was definitely like me spitballing something random out, and like, yeah, you're definitely right. Like I don't think that would be because if one person ruins it for everyone else, that sucks. Like it's
yeah.
not
Then you have
really
to if it's a one-time event, you have to go find what it's supposed to look like on the internet. You have
exactly,
to and then you don't get the full immersion of something really great that you like.
exactly.
So it all depends.
So with that being said, Chris, do you think that there's any way that like other games could compete with Fortnite to make that to like do something on this level? Maybe even for them to try to surpass that concurrent player count?
I hate to say it, but I don't think so. The
Wow.
whole thing with well, the thing about that is if you look at like Call of Duty, for example, that is a very you play multiplayer, you get out. It's one map, very limited. Even in like Warzone, uh, or whatever Blackout,
Hmm.
it's the battle royales for Black Ops 4 and Modern Warfare. If you reverse them, I
Hmm.
put them in the wrong order. It's fine. But on those, it's very quick. Let's do it. Just very one through.
Hmm.
And same with a lot of other games. They're focused very much on what they are, and sticking to their guns. But the thing about Fortnite is it's constantly, it's never the same thing. It's always changing. It's changing from season to season, from week to week. They're adding new challenges, and the maps are changing. Sometimes they're different things. They have events constantly, like the Star Wars event or the Avengers event that we're talking about, and it allows for this flexibility to have these concerts or these events where they can draw in these massive amounts of players. And I think that at this point does not have a game that really has the freedom in how it runs to have the freedom to put something like this into practice.
Hmm. Definitely. I do. So, I think that Fortnite is aided by its just current player base. Like it just has a very strong and very dedicated player base, and that's what leads a big event to have such high numbers of players. I do think, not this game specifically, but like a game in this form, a game like Destiny, I think would be something that can compete with it because I feel because Destiny has this big multiplayer audience, right? Like the whole game is reliant on groups of people working together and playing together. And I think that maybe there could be some form of an event that happens where, you know, if everyone wins, like if everyone completes a task at a certain time, then you get like the I conquered blank piece of gear or
Hmm.
something that shows that you were there, something that has like a long lasting impact on your account and your progress.
Yeah, so I feel like that's actually like a really, really good point. Something like Destiny. You could do something kind of like a raid, I guess, a
Hmm.
raid or a strike where you run through with 3 or 5 other people, where it's you don't have to like with the raids, you don't have to use raid tickets to get in with random people. You don't have to get in with your friends because it's not something that's inherently like necessarily difficult
Hmm.
or as there not there could be like difficult versions like Nightfall and that kind of stuff. But I mean, it should be something like it's something that's accessible to all players easily without paying extra that they can all get behind. Something that would be appealing to the audience and would potentially have in-game rewards if you complete it, or just something to watch maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I just think that I think the issue is that a game like Destiny specifically just isn't built for that. Like Fortnite had just it's the way that they marketed themselves, it doesn't feel out of place for Marshmallow to just show up out of nowhere. It doesn't it's not surprising for Travis Scott to just show up at the game. But like if you're playing Destiny and all of a sudden Ariana Grande is just like really big and she's like shooting out fireballs out of her eyes, like although that would be funny and like amazing, and I would definitely be there for that moment. I don't think that works within that world, and so I think maybe maybe the next big game will be something Destiny-ish,
Hmm.
and then maybe we can have an event like that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to get at. It's just the way that Fortnite represents itself as a more and is as a more free and shifting game always, and it's not always one thing. It gives so much freedom to do things like the Travis Scott event or the Marshmallow event or the big season ending or chapter ending, I guess, events.
Hmm. And so I guess another question is, do you think that something will ever, maybe not specifically, because I already asked you about like specifically about these events, so they can compete. But do you think another game will show up and like take over Fortnite's crown?
I feel like it won't be soon because the thing about Fortnite is it has already become so ingrained. It's like there's not been a game that has become so much within society, so spread out. There are things that like, oh, everybody's heard of Mario, or a lot of people have heard of Call of Duty, but not the player bases are smaller.
Hmm.
The interest is smaller. There are games that you have to pay for versus Fortnite, which is a free to play, and it requires them to get a hold on the same at least the same uh, group of player base as Fortnite, if not expanding on it,
Hmm.
and also while having a cohesive game, trying to, like I think Fortnite has done perfectly, have a game that's always changing, that's
Yeah,
always into something that is new, and can always change back to good things that have happened in the past, or take out bad things that have happened in the past.
definitely. I think the only game that has gotten as close as Fortnite in recent memory is Minecraft, and but like that's different because, like you said, it's not ever changing. Like Minecraft is kind of the same regardless of when you come to it. Like there are like slight improvements, there are updates, like there are different textures or whatever. Like, the things change, but it's always going to be the same core game. And also there isn't this heavy reliance on multiplayer and community, at
Hmm.
least in or like the direct community in the way that Fortnite has presented itself.
Yeah, I agree. Minecraft is like probably the closest thing in that it is changing and it's very much customizable on how you want to do it.
Hmm.
because like with Fortnite, you can do different you can challenge it, you can play it to grind it, you can play it to win, you can play it to get all the skins, you can do whatever you want, and then and the game is constantly changing. It's like a passive, it's an active changing game,
Hmm.
I think, versus Minecraft, which is more passive changing game, if that makes sense. There are updates
Definitely.
somewhat regularly, but the base game, like you said, stays the same. Versus
Yeah,
Fortnite, which is always kind of changing.
exactly. What do you think should be the next event? What's something that could bring you back into Fortnite again?
I mean, the only thing that's going to get me back really into Fortnite is just limiting my time because if I played it all the time for a while with my friends and my brother, and it
Hmm.
just got tiring. I got every game that we played together, I got knocked and then finished immediately.
Hmm.
I could not make it off spawn, and it was the most boring experience. And I got very frustrated with it. But I played with my brother a couple of days after this event, and since it had been a while, it was like a nice experience. It all depends on that. But then there's no I don't know if there's an event that specifically would get me. It would be like there has to be a really cool album to come out um, that would lend itself to something like this. Because if like I don't know, Coldplay were to come out with kind of another album, it would not lend itself necessarily to something like this,
Yeah.
where it's the big scale, crazy psychedelic transitions and something that it's just a spectacle, you
Hmm.
know. So we have to see.
I just thought of what would bring me back and what could get me into it. So
What is that?
I don't think I've told you this, but I've recently become a big Billie Eilish fan. I like it's just like this random thing that's happened to me. I've started listening to her music. Like she has some bops, man. That's all I can tell you. She has some like besides like the main like the big songs that everyone knows that's on the radio. There are some good songs that I really like, and I don't know. Like I could totally see Fortnite having like this ginormous Billy, like with like the black like ink blood coming out like of her eye, and like maybe she like spits out her tarantula and like goes crawling everywhere. And like maybe we have to fight the tarantula. You
Now
know what I
that you bring
mean?
that up, that would be a really good event, actually, I think.
Like I
It
think
could
Billie
be
Eilish
really good.
has like I think she has like this weird like dark kind of emo-y like vibe that could like make for a pretty good like boss encounter for Fortnite to play against, which is this something that they've had, I don't think. Like I don't think there's ever been like a big like 100-person co-op event, right? Where everyone's fighting
Hmm.
against this force. And I think that might be able to be a big change for Fortnite. And I think that that would be something that could get me involved.
Yeah, and I think the thing that would be really interesting about that is like it could be like similar or larger scale than the Travis Scott event, but it would be an entirely opposite feeling. It would be the vibe would be entirely different
Exactly.
because all the you go from like the pastel colors or the very bright for most of that and the rainbow to like more dark.
Dark and gritty.
And I think that would be very interesting. I agree.
And could you imagine if she came down, she's like, "I'm the bad guy," and then you see the health bar show up at the very top. And you're like, "Oh
Oh,
man,
that would be that would be
see,
interesting. Yeah,
see, I'm
I'll give
telling
you
you."
that.
All right,
Sometimes you have a good idea.
see, okay, Fortnite, like you have to give us credit for this. Like this is the big pitch. You put Billie Eilish in your game, and then I'll come back. And I know you guys want me to come back. Like I am obviously the person that they're most concerned about. Epic Games is
Naturally.
concerned about me.
Who else?
Who else besides Billie Eilish to put in? Oh, who else besides
No,
me?
who else? Who else beside you?
No one. Maybe Taylor Swift because she's a legend, but no one else besides me. All
Hmm.
right. Well, I think that's it for our show. Thank you so much for talking to me about Fortnite and Travis Scott, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for letting this happen.
Of course. All right. And if you guys ever want to tune back in to some Project GEEKcast, which we'll hopefully be airing every week, like and subscribe. Maybe even hit the little bell button so you get notified whenever we post. All right. This is.
And also you
Mhm.
can follow us on Twitter, which I don't know if we have put in our description or our page yet, but it will be there.
It
It
will
will
be
go in
there.
our description or somewhere. we'll figure it out.
Definitely. We will be easy to find, easy to contact. Hit us up for any video ideas, anything you want to ask us. No, we'll be
Hmm.
there. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right. This is Project GeekCast. Logging off.